Today, we'll be talking about the heuristic artificial intelligence caretaking machine Alpha, or Hikma for short, and she's the newest uniframe being added in the upcoming update, the Arc Beyond. And if you don't want to miss future PGR guides and videos, don't forget to subscribe. I also stream my Twitch at twitch.tv/AspireTB, and if I make any corrections or forget to mention something, it'll be in the pinned comment down below. Alright, let's get into it.
こちら 2B 問題ない
Hikma is a base S-rank uniframe that deals ice damage and features a mass AoE freeze, burst damage, and a stylish scythe slice finisher.
It should have been me, not him!
And in this video, I'll cover her skills, passives, ascensions, playstyle, weapons, resonance, and my pull and build recommendations. And as usual, I'll leave timestamps if you want to jump to a specific topic. First, I want to talk about how she works in depth, and then I'll give a TLDR at the end if you want to skip to it. Starting with her ultimate, it has two parts. When Hikma has enough energy, the first part of her ult infuses her scythe with ice, making all of her attacks and orbs deal ice damage, regardless of the amount of pings. Orbs and basic attacks will now build the gauge, which is indicated in the ultimate button. Pressing the ultimate again, during this form, will detonate an ice blast with the damage and duration based on how much of the gauge was charged. The blast freezes all enemies solid, with the freeze duration indicated by the depleting ult gauge. Her core passive works in tandem with this freeze duration. It's indicated by the gauge at the bottom of the screen, and basically holding down dodge will put Hikma into a defensive state, gaining 50% damage reduction and charging the gauge. If an enemy attacks during this charging state, Hikma will automatically jump back, increasing the gauge charge speed and triggering Matrix. But this effect can only be triggered once every 1.5 seconds and with enough dodge gauge. Releasing the dodge when the gauge is full will do a leap attack, dealing AoE ice damage, but releasing the dodge before the gauge is full will cancel the charge, depleting over time. So, TLDR, spam orbs and basics to activate the first ult, then spam orbs and basics to build the second ult, then trigger the second ult to freeze the enemies, and then stare them down while holding down dodge to charge the gauge to full, and then let go for big ice damage. Going over the orb abilities, her red orb spins her scythe, pulling in surrounding enemies to deal physical damage, and this damage is converted to ice damage if it's a 3 orb or matrix ping. This is also her swap and attack. Her blue orb slashes an enemy, dealing physical damage unless it's a 3 orb or matrix ping, in which case it is ice damage, before stepping back and sending an ice damage wave in front of her. And her yellow orb blinks her forward to deal physical damage to her target, and this is converted to ice damage if it's a 3 orb or matrix ping. But note that the blink doesn't make her untargetable, so she can still be interrupted during the cast, so it's mainly just a gap closing ability. Her basic attack swings her scythe, pulling in enemies, and then doing a spinning attack before launching out a ranged wave, dealing physical damage. And her QTE is an ice damage wave to a target. As for the uniframe skills, as usual, start with unlocking and maxing her finishing move first, followed by the speed or evasion attack, and then finally the team skill if you want to. Her speed or evasion attack skill is unique since you can control the direction of the tornado, so sometimes you can line it up to hit multiple targets. Her leader passive gives the team increased ice damage, and uniframes get increased attack. As for her ascensions, at double S, it further increases the damage of her second ultimate and gives passive generation for the gauge for her second ultimate as well, speeding up her overall setup time. At triple S, her ice damage is increased and she can instantly use her first ultimate, again further speeding up her setup. And at triple S plus, when triggering Matrix, enemies become frozen. Hikma is fully functional at base S rank, but since the double S passive gauge generation makes her setup faster compared to making the difference with orbs and basic attacks, I would recommend her at double S if you want to use her more on field. And note that like all other uniframes, you can double S her for free in the guild shop, but remember to prioritize hypertuning omniframes or constructs first. And for the Hikma enthusiasts, triple S is the general stopping point for spenders. And quickly running through weapons, as usual, the 4-star weapon is not worth using. The 5-star weapon is barely serviceable in my opinion, since her 6-star or signature weapon speeds up her gauge charge rate so much that I say if you plan to use Hikma, you probably want her signature weapon. It's just that without her signature weapon, you'll barely charge the core passive gauge in time before the gauge in the ultimate button depletes from full. You can technically use Chrome Arclight or Isla Brilliance's signature scythe weapons for the high base attack, but unless you don't mind waiting until after you retire for the gauge to charge, the passive for Hikma's signature weapon is near essential for her to function without waiting for like 40 years. And for the 6-star weapon resonance priority, start with Limit Break into Signal Overload and then Matrix Burst. And Hikma comes with their own 6-star 6-piece set as with all uniframes, and you want to resonate plus 15 attack on the top row and ultimate on the bottom row. Hypertune is not really necessary for her to be viable, but you can hypertune the bottom row if you want. And Hikma's rotation is actually pretty unique. I like to start with another uniframe first, someone like Roland who doesn't really care about orb RNG, swap an attack into Haikuma and use 3 orb pings and basic attacks to get to her first ultimate quickly, then swap back out since Haikuma's infusion does not end when she's off field, and then, when Haikuma swaps back in, use 3 orb pings and basics to get to her second ultimate, activate that ultimate to freeze the enemies, then hold dodge to charge the attack, and then let go to release the AoE nuke. This rotation maximizes the swap in damage bonus that you get from the Uniframe class skill, and it helps build the gauge quicker by using her swap in attacks. Haikuma has a lot more downtime compared to other Uniframes, so having some teammates to swap in between helps a lot with the uptime. And also, since she's very dependent on the dodge gauge for her core passive charge, be careful not to spam it as it leaves you with no way to dodge and no way to charge. And you can technically charge the gauge whenever you want, but you usually want to charge it after the second ult because of the 2x multiplier from the 6-piece set. So, should you pull or build her? Well, she's arguably one of the most expensive Uniframes investment-wise, since she's somewhat difficult to play without her signature weapon due to the outrageous charge time. And since Uniframes are not as essential as regular Omniframes, I can't openly recommend pulling for her if you're a newer player that's tied on black cards or a free-to-play player. But her ability to mass freeze enemies makes her pretty good when dealing with harder stages if you're able to rotate her in properly, or just not even care about that at all if you have her at triple S. I'ma call worth for the Roboto dance though. And if there's any updates or corrections, I'll leave in a pinned comment down below. If you have any questions, drop in the comments or ask our community Discord at discord.io/AjanAutomata, and I'll try to respond if I'm not busy. Subscribe so you don't miss future guys and videos, and if it's been informative, drop a like, a dislike if you didn't. I stream on my Twitch at twitch.tv/SpiderToB, so drop a follow if you want to see when I go live. And yeah, honestly, I'm be real, the best part about the update is being able to auto clear the event stage with one button and the Revelation OST. But anyways, that's it from me. Thanks as always for watching, and peace, late.